Okay, a bit of a different interview for this time. This is our first Young IPA podcast interview in front of a live studio audience here at the Balliol My studio. So we thought, who do we want to bring on for such a momentous occasion? Only one name came to mind. Gideon Rosner, welcome back to the show.
Great to be here. Anything to be in this fantastic studio.
Yeah, brilliant.
We needed someone. Oh, there they are. There they are.
Okay,
you might be picking up in the background. So no swearing, guys. We've got an audience.
Yeah.
Expectations are sky high now.
There is a button underneath this desk. The sprinklers will come on if the audience gets a little too rowdy. All right, but Gideon, you were in Canberra last week with Dr. Peter Ridd. So what was that trip about, and what is the latest with his ongoing legal case with JCU?
Well, so I was in Canberra just on routine IPA business. We do speak to a lot of members of parliament. We do, in addition to doing shows like this and getting on Sky News and so on, we do speak directly to politicians to put our views forward.
Telling ScoMo what to do.
Correct. He takes my calls all the time. No, what Peter Ridd was there for was to lobby for an inquiry into Great Barrier Reef signs, which he actually got. So while I was there, and Peter and I were like ships passing the night, we talked about how the case was going. The writing was on the wall then, and we were staring down the barrel of an appeal by James Cook University against Peter Ridd's resounding win earlier this year. And we sort of we spoke. We talked about how we were going to raise money to pursue the next stage of the appeal, and hardened ourselves for what comes next. And it'll be a Peter versus Goliath battle.
Okay, so why are JCU appealing? They obviously already lost.
Yep.
They owe him a huge amount of money. Why are they appealing?
And it wasn't just like a regular loss. Like JCU got hammered in that court case.
It was a finding that all 17 of their actions against Peter Ridd on the basis of his employment, ranging from his censures, from gag orders, to his eventual sacking, were unlawful. Why are they appealing? The most charitable answer I could give you is because they can. Because they can afford it. Because unlike Peter, who has to go out and rattle a tin for $1.5 million, they can use your money and my money to fight these silly and vexatious and frivolous legal battles.
Yeah, that's crazy to me because, the amount of taxpayer money that they can draw on just to fight a case that they're clearly going to lose. They've clearly lost and they should lose again.
Correct.
But they can just do this.
Correct. Money that you and I give them again for the purposes of education and research, all to pursue a vendetta against one scientist. And the worst part about it is that this is all being done to suppress a good staff member's honestly held opinion, to stifle his right under contract as well as his moral right to free speech. It is absolutely antithetical to what a university should be doing.
Yeah, so I know a lot of people who listen to this show, and a lot of people in our live studio audience would definitely care about how they can help Peter Ridd in this. So do you want to talk about the GoFundMe? Yes,
so Google Peter Ridd GoFundMe. As I said, it will not be cheap to take this appeal forward. We don't know how exactly it will play out, but any and all donations are very welcome. The good news is that the GoFundMe page has been open for 48 hours now at the time we're recording, and it's already racked up over $250,000, all from ordinary Australians, a lot of small amounts, a lot of $10 and $20 amounts, but people who might not necessarily agree with Peter's views on the Great Barrier Reef or climate change, but they do agree that even though they might disagree with what he has to say, they are defending with their wallets his right to say it.
That's right. So if you want to support Peter Ridd, go on GoFundMe. If you want to support JCU, just keep paying your taxes. Speaking of intellectual inquiry, we've had to step into the breach because our university sector isn't capable of doing that at the moment. The IPA has recently announced that we're accepting donations for our new book of research, Climate Change, the Facts 2020. Why don't you tell us about that project and why you're passionate about it?
Yeah, so what I'm holding in my hand is the last edition of Climate Change, the Facts, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, and of course our fantastic audience here in the studio tonight. This is, the fourth in the series of Climate Change, the Facts that we're putting out. Why am I so excited about it? Well, firstly, about the book, it's a book of scientific articles, mostly by well-known scientists, curated by the IPA's own Dr. Jennifer Marahasi, giving views on climate change you don't see on the ABC. Views on climate change you don't see on The Conversation, for example, which has banned all climate deniers, which is a charming term in itself. I mean, that is an obvious equation to Holocaust denial. They're comparing differences of opinion with in terms of carbon dioxide and its effect on the Earth with the systematic liquidation of 6 million human beings. That is what the state of climate the climate debate is in Australia.
Yeah.
The reason why this is so important is because we are bringing it back to the facts.
Yeah, just with the conversation thing as well. Like, it's the same thing as JCU. Like, they take taxpayer funding. And you just think the conversation is more than willing to take the taxpayer money of people that are skeptical, but they won't take the comments and they won't take the articles.
No.
You're not welcome in our community, but we will take your money.
Yeah, they'll take everybody's money as long as they can control who gets a say.
Yeah.
But this is a serious issue because this is not a good faith debate about the environment anymore. There are school children who have had it drilled in their heads that the world is going to end in 11 years. That is not environmentalism. That's apocalypticism. That is sub-rational and paganistic. So, this is one of the few places now where people will be able to see a different perspective and to get their heads around the facts.
So you're obviously passionate about this project, Gideon. Now, I heard a rumour that you've got a chapter in this edition.
I do.
Is that right? How many words?
It was about, let's say, 3,500 words. I've recently completed it. I'm just giving it the old
you
switch on.
completed it?
Yes, and
Wow, that is very
mail it. Well,
conscientious.
it's a chapter on the Peter Ridd case. It's sort of typical Rosner style writing, a little bit gonzo, a little bit of talk about my favourite subject myself.
Hunter S. Rosner.
Talking about my adventures, in meeting Peter and going to court and seeing for myself the bastardry that had gone on there and everything else. But it's yet unfinished because I've completed most of it, but it's an ongoing story.
Yeah, Fear and Loathing in the Federal Circuit Court is up there working on. So who are the other authors that you know are contributing that you're really excited to hear from? Because I know 2017 was absolutely loaded with authors from around the world that people really cottoned onto. So who are the people that you're excited
Including Peter Ridd. In fact, it was Peter Ridd's chapter in Climate Change, the facts that got him wrapped over the knuckles by his employer.
Next year.
Apologies, yeah, correct. Getting in trouble with my employer, that's a world first. But no, the authors are really, really good. Jennifer Marahasi, as I said, has put together a great lineup. There's a dubious gentleman by the name of Scott Hargraves who's writing about, who's of course our executive general manager,
Friend of the show,
and a very good friend of the show,
Go download, looking forward.
Good friend of mine as well, who's writing about different forms of so-called climate skepticism. But in terms of scientific authors, we've got great people like Richard Lindzen and Roy Spencer and Henrik Svensmark, leaders in their fields, who a lot of whom, I might add, who have been handed out of their tenure or their positions at research institutes, or again are being slammed and slandered as deniers in this debate.
Yeah, brilliant. So the other thing we want to talk about with you is something that we've all been excited for in the IPA for a while now. It's the debut of the Full Rosner. So do you want to tell us what the Full Rosner is, what that project is,
Yes.
and when people
They've got a taste of it tonight, I think.
That's correct. Yeah, no, this is the free sample. We'll make you pay for the full package soon. No, the Full Rosner is the IPAs. We've got a new studio now. We're expanding into digital content. We've got some great podcasts. Well, we've got one okay podcast and one great podcast.
We'll get there one day.
You're on your way.
It's tough putting this stuff out every week.
Well, so this is our expansion into opinion television in the form of a YouTube show. So in the US, they're very, very popular. Things like Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin and things like that.
Yeah, they do okay.
They do okay. They do okay. So there's a market for it. So I'll be presenting that, looking down the barrel of the camera. It'll typically be monologues on whatever the opinion of the week is and giving my 2 cents. We'll have a great series of guests. We'll have segments. Evan Mulholland is already signed up to do a monthly Media Watch segment, which will be very, very different from the ABC's version of Media Watch insofar as people will want to watch it and get some value out of it.
Has it got the right level of smug that people come to expect from a Media Watch
Well,
host?
I could never pull off smug. I'm never smug. I'm never smarmy. So I don't know. I'll leave that up to the viewing audience. But I should explain something about the title. Because it's a bit out there, but so we were sitting around with John, spitballing these ideas, and what are we going to call it? So the Full Rosner is something that my university friends actually cottoned for me back in the day when I was being particularly opinionated or rambunctious.
Once again, doesn't sound like
that's just never someone I've met.
Before I was the meek and mild policy director you see before you tonight. So anyway, I put this idea to John and he thought it was a good idea and I said, okay, that's the working title and it's stuck. And now the great Paul Murray is announcing it every time I go on Sky as well. So
he's so excited for it.
Yeah,
he's struggling to keep that guy out of the studio when you start.
Funny story about Paul. See, as soon as I told him it was starting, I was up in the Sydney studio. He got so excited. He had me out in the car park of the Macquarie Park studio of Sky, puffing on a couple of cigars for 45 minutes, telling me the tips of the trade and everything else. I mean, that's just a measure of the man. He's an all-round top bloke. So,
he absolutely is.
Fantastic.
All right, brilliant. So, Gideon Rosner, thank you very much for joining us on the show, and keep an eye out for the Full Rosner.
Great to be here as always.
All right, cool.
Thank you very much.